Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to another episode of the life of Musa. Today we're speaking about the life of Musa and Harun. We spoke last time about Musa, how he was born and his family, his mother put him in the basket. He was raised in the house of Pharaoh. He was enslaved. He fled after killing a man by accident. He got married, and he went back to give dawah to Pharaoh, and ultimately pulled the Beni Israel away from the shackles of slavery and freed them, and they fled. And of course, Musa parted the sea, and now they're free from the army of Pharaoh. Now, when Musa lands on the other side of the sea with the Beni Israel, imagine the Beni Israel. They've seen the sea part, right? They've seen all the miracles of Musa alayhi salam. We spoke about them. The stick turning into a snake, the stick parting the sea, the hand shining, all the plagues that were brought upon the people of Pharaoh, the shortages of food and water on the Egyptians, as well as frogs and the water turning into blood and the locusts. All these miracles which the Beni Israel had witnessed, they were still rebellious, subhanAllah. And you'll see as we go on, so many times the Beni Israel have been given message and chance after chance to come back to Allah. So Musa alayhi salam and the Beni Israel, they were in the wilderness. They fled Pharaoh, and they're in the wilderness. For 40 nights. They're in the wilderness, and Musa is in the mountain for 40 nights. And during that time, he receives the revelation, the first revelation, the actual Kitab Allah of the Torah. Before he'd been given wahi, he'd been given inspiration from Allah, but now he's been given the Kitab Allah, the Kalam Allah of the Torah. Now this is the original Torah. We're not talking about the Bible. We're not talking about the first 5 books of the Bible, what they label the Torah today. We're talking about the actual Torah that was given to Moses, subhanAllah. So Moses goes up and he receives the Torah and the commandments on the tablets, and he comes down from the mountain. And within the Torah, the laws, the commandments were revealed. And subhanAllah, he comes down from the mountain. He sees that the people have started to worship a golden cow. Subhanallah. Now, before he went up the mountain, he left his brother Harun in charge of the people. Okay? So now when Musa returns, he's like, what's going on? And he grabs Harun by the scruff of the neck. He's like, why are you allowing them to worship a golden cow? We've just come from, Egypt, where they're worshipping all sorts of things, including golden cows. And now they've seen all the miracles. They know we believe in one Allah, and they're worshipping a cow, subhanAllah, this miskin. So Musa says, look, I didn't want to split the community, subhanAllah. He was trying to hold the community together. And what's bad is today's Jews and Christians in the Bible, they accuse Harun of the one who made the cow, subhanAllah. And Allah corrects this narrative in the Quran. It was not Harun who originated this idol of a cow. It was actually Samri who actually started this, and the people started to worship. Now, what do we learn from this? We learn that people have been enslaved in their mind. They've been living under tyrants. That it takes them time. They become rebellious, and they become followers of the religion of the tyrant. If we look at the religion of the ancient Egyptians, they also worshipped a golden cow, subhanAllah. And the Jews were copying them. The Beni Israel, we should say, were copying them, subhanAllah. So they were worshipping the golden cow, and Musa throws down the tablets, and the tablets break. Imagine he'd just been given the wahi from Allah, and he's fuming. He's so upset. Imagine he'd freed them from slavery. All he's asking that they are obedient to Allah, and they're already worshipping a cow straight away. Within the first 40 days of being in the wilderness, subhanAllah. So Musa goes back and receives the tablets again and receives the Torah. Now, what's interesting is the Torah of Musa. We know a little bit about it from the Quranic sources, the true Torah. It mentions in the Quran that the ones who follow the unlettered messenger, the unlettered prophet, I should say, whose description they find in the Torah and the Injil with them, subhanAllah. So it's interesting that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was mentioned in the actual Torah, which was given to Musa. And what's interesting is even the Sahaba were mentioned. It mentions that you see them bowing and prostrating, and they have marks on their faces, on their heads, from the prostration. This is how they're mentioned in the Torah. So even the Sahaba, the followers of the Prophet ﷺ, were mentioned in the Torah, subhanAllah. And some communities want to deny some of the Sahaba, subhanAllah. So not only the Prophet ﷺ, but also the Sahaba were mentioned. Jihad, or fighting in the cause of Allah, was also prescribed in the Torah. Now this is significant because this is something that later on in the story the Jews refused to fight in order to take over Palestine from the disbelievers of the time. They refused to do this, and they were so arrogant. We'll speak about that. When their arrogance, they told Musa, "You go and fight." Subhanallah. But it was confirmed in the Quran in Surah 19, 111, that jihad was also prescribed in the actual Torah given to Musa. So then, when the Beni Israel finally get to the borders of Palestine, Musa told his people, we have to now fight and conquer the land which is promised to the believers. Know that it's promised to the believers, right? Not promised to Beni Israel just because they're from Beni Israel. Okay, it's promised to the true believers and the righteous people. So, subhanAllah, the people reject it. They said there is a mighty people in it. We will not enter it until they leave it. Subhanallah. You go and fight. Imagine subhanallah, the arrogance. And imagine how lonely Musa must have felt. There's just literally him and Harun, and the people are rejecting his message. He feels almost hopeless, like they've seen all the miracles and they're still rejecting to follow what Allah has told them to do. So because of this, Allah actually punished the Beni Israel and sent them into the wilderness for 40 years. For a whole 40 years, they were roaming the desert, roaming the wilderness, lost. And in these years, it was 40 years of purification of the community, getting rid of the old people, the people that had rejected the signs of Musa, and then the new generation replaced them, and hopefully the new generation will be following the religion of Musa properly. Another incident that happened with Musa is the famous incident with Khidr, which is mentioned in Surah Kahf in the Quran, where Musa was given a sermon to his people, and Musa presumed that he was the most knowledgeable on the earth because he's a prophet, and Allah told him that there's another prophet, Khidr. Many scholars are of the opinion that Khidr is also a prophet, and Musa went to see Khidr, and Khidr was not from the Beni Israel, but he was most likely a prophet of Allah. And as you remember the story of Musa following Khidr, learning the lessons, Khidr broke the boat, okay? He saved the gold of the orphans by hiding it, and he also killed a boy. And in these lessons, Musa could not understand, why is this man doing these things? I mean, for the average person, we cannot understand, why would you destroy a boat of these nice people? Very nice people, you just destroy their boat for no reason. You hide the gold of the orphans, and you killed a boy. Musa could not understand the wisdom. And Musa continued to ask Khidr about these things until Khidr lost his, he got to the end of his patience and told Musa, look, you cannot stay with me. But he told him the meaning of these things, that the boat, there was a king coming and stealing the boats, and this is just a damaged boat. They can fix it, where the king is not going to take a boat that needs to be fixed. That there was some orphans who of righteous person, and the people who were looking after the orphans used to, would have stole the gold if they knew that the orphans had that wealth. So he'd hid it so that the orphans could find that wealth later when they were able to protect themselves. And also he killed a boy with the permission of Allah, of course, because Allah knew that he was destined to be a kafir, and he was also going to misguide his parents, and Khidr had been given that permission. So these are some of the lessons we learn from his interaction with Khidr. Of course, also the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, on the night journey, he met Musa in the Sama. He met Musa, and Musa was concerned for the Ummah of Muhammad. Now at that time, Allah had revealed 50 salah a day on the Ummah. And as the Prophet ﷺ was descending the Sama, Musa asked him, and Musa advised him, go and try to get the number of salah down, because Musa had this experience with his own nation. They refuse miracles, they refuse everything. Musa's like, look, there's no way the people are going to pray 50 times a day. Go and get the amount of time for the salah down. And the Prophet ﷺ kept going to Allah, asking for the number of salah, which is obligatory, to be reduced until it was reduced to 5 daily prayers. And that, you could say, is thanks to Musa alayhi salam. Of course, if you want to pray 50 salah, go ahead. But thanks to Musa alayhi salam, we're only accountable for praying 5 daily prayers as Muslims, because Musa was concerned that we wouldn't be able to fulfill this task. Hadith which is mentioned about Musa alayhi salam on Judgment Day, that when the Prophet ﷺ wakes up, he said, don't say that I am better than Musa, because when the Prophet ﷺ wakes up on Yawm al-Qiyamah, Musa is already awake, and he's holding one of the sides of the thrones of Allah, subhanallah. So this is the status of Musa, very high status, hefty status within Islam, one of the mighty prophets of Islam. And subhanAllah, that comes to the end of this video. I hope you got some benefit. There's so many life lessons in the story of Musa alayhi salam. We can speak about this all day. I hope you got an insight into the life of Musa and Harun, and the tests and the difficulties that they went through. Even after death,